Welcome to the Run for God Run Club, where you will find God in a runner's space.
Welcome to the Run for God Run Club. This is your one stop each week to be motivated and inspired to get off the couch and onto the running trail, where you can in turn inspire others to do the same. Let's learn, laugh, and leap into running together, giving God the glory for what we are able to do in His name. Amen. I am your running host, Dean Thompson. Quitting. It can be a terrible thing, right? But it can also be just what you need. We're going to talk about that today. And then I'll share a story about why being around people is what God has in mind for us. And here to share His great wisdom on those subjects and many more is Run for God founder Mitchell Hollis.
Thanks for having me, Dean. You know, it's launch day.
Launch day.
The new runforgod.com launches day. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a little while. But yeah. It's live.
Exciting.
All the months of working and testing and breaking and testing again and breaking again have come to a head. And we're still probably going to be breaking some things in these first few weeks, like you always do.
Yeah.
But yeah, runforgod.com, the all new runforgod.com is live. So we've been talking about it for a while. I'm excited.
Sweet. Yeah. That's awesome. And it's cross country season too.
It is.
I'm excited. Cross country season means a couple of things. Of course, I love cross country, but more than that, it also means that cooler weather is around the corner.
You know, Holly and I, our anniversary was this past weekend, and we're going to take just a little 3-day getaway up to North Carolina to the mountains next weekend. And I looked out at the long range forecast, and the high where we're going next weekend is like 73.
Oh my goodness.
So that's going to be, it's only supposed to be like 79 or 80 here.
Wow. That's going to be nice.
But you know, by the end of August, we'll get blasted with some 100-degree temperatures.
Well, there'll be some days in September that are really hot.
But it's coming.
That's
the exciting part.
That's right.
So
for sure.
Hey, before we get started, let's talk about this week's sponsor. Again, if you have a business and you would like to support the ministry of Run for God and allow us to support what you do, send an email to runlanehollis@gmail.com. He'll get you all the information you need. But this week's sponsor is Hank's Carpet and Flooring. Hank's Carpet and Flooring is your one-stop shop for all your flooring needs. Hank stocks a huge selection of name brand flooring, carpet, luxury vinyl, plank, waterproof flooring, and the exclusive Lola Pate area rug collection. Voted North Georgia's best of the best 8 straight years and the People's Choice winner for the past 2. Great flooring, great prices. Why shop anywhere else? Visit Hank's Carpet and Flooring, Giant Showroom, or at hankscarpet.com for red hot deals. Great people over there. We've talked about Hank and his whole family several times. But, if you need floor covering, Hank's is the place to go to learn more.
Good place to go. Our Facebook post from this past week comes from Todd O.C. Shoemaker. O.C. stands for Overcomer. If you haven't heard Todd's story, you need to check Todd's story out. You can find it at deadmanrunningmovie.com, and you'll understand this, how impactful this post is when you understand his story. It says, and he lives down in Florida. He says, living in Florida means we deal with a lot of storms. In the summer, it can be sunny out, but around 3 or 4 o'clock, a storm can come out of nowhere. Some days it can be raining hard in the front yard, but sunny in the backyard. Of course, then there's the hurricanes. Some hurricanes move quickly through, while others just stall over us. On this crazy, beautiful journey called life, we will face many different storms. Sometimes there'll be a light rain that comes and goes in a minute. And then there are storms that blow in, causing havoc for everyone and everything in its path. We don't like walking through the storms of life. Who does? We love the sunny beach weather. But unfortunately, that is not the world we live in. We will all walk through a storm or two during this life. We will all face days of blowing winds and flooding waters. Stop for a minute and sit still. In that minute, I am sure you can think of one person who is currently walking through a storm. The storms of life are hitting them from every side. Maybe that person is you. I often hear pastors share we are either walking in a storm or just coming out of a storm or about to walk through a storm. How true. If you're currently walking through a storm, I encourage you to take hold of the strong hand of God. He will lift you up as you face the raging seas. When we walk through a storm, that doesn't mean God doesn't love us or isn't listening to our prayers. On the contrary, the scriptures tell us this: in this life we will all face trouble. We like to skip over that part because it isn't very comforting or encouraging. But that doesn't change the fact that we will all face troubles in life. When we walk through a storm, we can take heart because God has overcome this world. That means He will never leave or forsake us. That should bring peace and comfort to everyone. I have walked through many storms in my life. I've come to learn these storms have a purpose. That may not be always clear when we're walking through the storm, but if we will take the time to listen, God will reveal the lessons He has for us as we walk through a raging storm. I have learned God never wastes a storm. God can use a storm to show us the purpose of our lives or to reconnect us to our true purpose in life. Hopefully, this will bring you peace as you walk through your storm, especially if you have walked through this storm for many years. You have been praying and crying out to God, but it appears He's not listening. Believe me, I've been there. I've walked through a stormy season in life that lasted for almost 18 years. I was hit with one storm after another. So I get it, my friend. Life can be hard. But in the midst of my storm, I saw God grow my faith in a life-changing way. God allowed me to share the gospel with so many as I walked the halls of the hospitals or during my weekly treatments and doctor appointments. During the storm, God reminded me that my worth and value are not tied to my career, success, or what I believe in life. No, my value and worth are found in being a child of God, in being chosen by Him, called by Him, and equipped by Him for a purpose. Sometimes our lives are rocked by the storms of life so that we can rebuild on a better foundation, on the firm foundation of God.
It's a great post.
He's such an inspiration.
He is.
For somebody to go through the stuff that he's been through and to still remain so steadfast and so faithful, it's amazing.
Yeah, and you hear it in his words here, but we've had the privilege of getting to talk to Todd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's exactly the way he talks in person. There's no bitterness. I mean, he has. If you put a picture of storms of life, if you look it up in the encyclopedia, it's probably Todd's picture.
Yeah.
In there, and all glory to God. No bitterness. I would say no regret. I haven't asked him that question, but I would say that I don't know that looking back he would have it any other way because of how he's seen God's hand move so mightily in his life. So it's a great focus, or it's a great way to refocus us, is to see somebody's story like Todd's.
Yeah. This made me think about, I remember when I was younger, my kids were very young, and we went to Disney World. It was just the three of us, me and Matthew and Caleb, went to Disney World, and we went to Disney, and we were there all day, from when the gates opened to when the gates closed.
Bless you.
Yeah. And as we were leaving, you know how tired you are, and we're leaving, we get on the monorail to ride out to the parking lot, and there was a storm. A big lightning storm came up, and that, just like he says, it happens in Florida. Mm-hmm. And they had to stop the monorail because of the lightning. Mm-hmm. So they stopped us underneath this shelter, and they opened the doors because they couldn't leave it on, so they couldn't keep the air conditioning running. So there had to be, it was thunder and lightning, and Caleb, bless his heart, was just terrified of storms when he was a kid. So he's like 5 years old, and he is just screaming, and all I can do is just hold him, and just wrap my arms around him and try to let him know, look, I'm here. Everything's fine. Nothing's, and every time I would loosen up my grip a little bit, he would start to scream again. And it was really, really terrifying for him. And he probably doesn't even remember it today.
Block that out of his memory.
Yeah. But I remember it like it was yesterday. And, that's the way it is, I think, a lot of times when we face storms. Mm-hmm. Caleb was young. He didn't know any better, and all he knew was this loud noise, and he just didn't like loud noises. And all I could do is hold him and comfort him. But what would have happened if Caleb would have decided that he could run out of that monorail car to a safer place? Mm-hmm. It would have made it worse. Mm-hmm. Would have made the whole thing worse, right? But that's what we do with God, is God's got his arms wrapped around us if we'll just stay put. Mm-hmm. Instead, we're busy squirming and getting out of his grip and trying to fix it ourselves. Yeah. All storms will eventually pass if we'll
That's
just
true.
let them. Yep.
Good word.
Our trivia question for last week was this. This is the definition for a term in running. A feeling of euphoria that is experienced by some individuals engaged in strenuous running and that is held to be associated with a release of endorphins by the brain. You knew this one,
Yeah,
right?
I knew this one.
Runner's high. I get asked about this all the time. I don't know if you do, just by people in general asking about runner. What is runner's high? Have you ever gotten a runner's high?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't understand runner's high because I don't know that I've ever gotten the idea of being, what do they call it? Euphoric. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever been euphoric from a run before.
I would argue that you have.
The word euphoric to me is really a big word, but.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have. There's no doubt about it. I have. I mean, I've talked about one particular time that stands out was at the end of Ironman Florida. You know, from mile like 20 to 25, I was talk about Todd. I was a dead man walking. I mean, I was just done. But as soon as I heard the music and the lights. And it was dark where I was, but I could see the lights ahead. You know that feeling. I mean, it's like
I just feel like that's adrenaline.
Well, but I think that's what the runner's high is. It's the adrenaline. It's all the endorphins. It's everything being released, because as soon as you get across the finish line, it's like boom, that goes away, and you're collapsing and hitting the ground. To me, that's the runner's high, and that's where all that is released.
Well, I went down a rabbit hole with this thing when I started looking at it. I couldn't stop looking at it because nobody really understands what runner's high is, and so the definition of it that I read out says something about endorphins, but now they're saying that it may not be endorphins at all. That may not be what it is.
Well, endorphins, I think all the other words, dopamine. All the things that you experience the same thing with danger. Yeah. Because like when I used to ride bulls, and when you would settle down on the back of a 2,000-pound bull, it's the same feelings would come in, and you couldn't feel anything. Mm-hmm. And then when you get out of the arena to safety, it's like, oh my goodness, everything hurts now.
Like I said, I get it. That's a pretty incredible thing. One of the things the most recent studies are showing is that it's possibly linked to endocannabinoids. So this apparently is the chemical that like THC, marijuana, that's what it interacts with to get you feeling. And they think that maybe that has something to do with the whole runner's high thing. I don't know. Dopamine, you mentioned dopamine. That's kind of the reward center of your brain. You do something that you like, and then it releases dopamine to make you feel good about what you just did. And that's...
So now is adrenaline, this is my ignorance here, is adrenaline a chemical? Like dopamine is?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
But it's a different, adrenaline's a different thing. It reacts in a different way. That wasn't actually mentioned in the research that I saw. Adrenaline wasn't mentioned at all. Leptin was another thing that was talked about, and it's the feeling of satisfaction from survival that you're talking about. That feeling that you escaped the lion that was after you. That's what that one is. But the bottom line is we just don't understand it, and all these people, that are hooked. We've seen a number of people who have been hooked on drugs or alcohol or something like that, who become runners, and they replace that addiction with running, and this is why. Yeah. Is because we have this kind of reaction to it. So it's so all these folks that are, maybe what we need to do in some of these big cities where we have these drug problems is maybe we need to have running programs there. I mean, seriously, I don't know
Greg
how.
Ellis.
Yes.
I mean, he's substituted addiction of drugs and put it into running, and he was running 100 miles on a treadmill.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy stuff. But he said, he would tell you he got the same. Maybe euphoria is not the right word, but the same dopamine, adrenaline, all the things you get. I mean, I've never done drugs, but from what I understand, it's the same feelings. It's the same feeling as bull riding, or it's the same feeling as some people feel it with skydiving and running. It's all those chemical releases that is addictive.
Yeah.
Can be addictive.
Well, and I guess if I was thinking about runner's high, I'm thinking about the times where you're on a 20 miler and you all of a sudden at mile 15, you just all of a sudden it just feels easy.
They call it, don't they? In the running world, they call it flow.
Yeah, some people.
You hear that term that it's like it's just effortless, and I mean, you get that feeling of I can do this all day long, and So I think there's lots of versions of it, but I have to think you've experienced it.
Yeah,
as many miles as you've done, you've experienced it.
Well, interesting subject, runner's high.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the website.
So the website, the new runforgod.com, is live. I want to go over a few things because it did release today. It actually released late last night. But I want to go over just a few things because Holly and Gay, they're going to be dealing with a lot of the questions. So there's two groups out there. If you've never been a member of Run Club, go to runforgod.com, get signed up. The website's incredible. You're going to love it. It's pretty self-explanatory when you get there. Now, for all of our current members, there are a few things that you're going to need to do. Number one, if you go to runforgod.com today, this morning, it looks different. And your login credentials will no longer work on that site. The reason for this, because we're going to get the questions, why did y'all do this? The reason for this is a completely different platform. And evidently, it's a big no-no to take your credit card information from one platform to another platform. And so, therefore, we're not able to transfer your membership from one platform to the other platform. So, for the people out there who are currently members, you're going to go on to runforgod.com. You're going to go in and you're going to sign up just like you're a new member. Now, the obvious question is, well, I paid for a year membership in December, and now you're asking me in August to sign up for another year membership. You're going to see two transactions. One, you're going to see the transaction for where you signed up today, and then you're going to, on the new platform, and then you're going to see a refund from the old platform from today through the end of your subscription. So it's the same dollars, but you're going to have to sign up for one and get a refund from the other.
So is there a time lag between those?
There may be a day or two time lag between those. Yeah, it's not instant because the refund side we have to do manually.
Right.
So understand that the ladies in the office out here, they are doing that manually. So they're taking, we always say 27 cents a day on the annual memberships. Well, all they're doing is they're going to your old membership from the old platform, and they're saying, okay, today is August 1st, and your subscription on the old platform ends September 1st. So let's say that's 30 days. They're taking 30 days times 27 cents, and they're sending you a refund. It really is simple. It can look complicated, but I promise you it's the same dollars. We're making it right. And if it's not, if you've got questions, shoot them an email. Yeah. But just know you will see a charge for the new site, and you can switch platforms. Some people were annually. If you want to go to monthly, you can do that. Or if you were monthly, you can go to annually. We don't have the quarterly option anymore, at least for not right now. The new platform that we're on doesn't offer the quarterly option. But yeah, we've had people in there for weeks now testing and breaking and testing and breaking, and we feel like we've got it solid now. Are there going to be some things come up? Yes. Yeah. It is a new website. It's going to happen. We're going to have, but we're on top of it. We're monitoring it every single hour of every day right now. But it's incredible. The new challenges, the Run Club social, golly bum, it's incredible the how interactive it is. And also for all of you Couch to Marathon 2022 participants out there, when you go onto the new site and you go to the challenges, you're going to see Couch to Marathon 2022 in progress. That's the one you'll want to sign up on. That'll drop you right back in to where everything's current for today, and then you'll start getting all the automated workouts, the reminders, the encouragements. If you're on the couch to marathon 2022, go to runforgod.com, get signed up, and sign up for Couch to Marathon 2022 in progress.
Let me ask one question. Okay. Now, if I'm going from the old site to the new site, do I need to cancel my membership on the old site?
No, you don't need to cancel.
Okay.
The ladies in the office will take care of that. They'll know when you sign up, they'll know whether you are a member on the old platform or not, and they will take care of that for you. So all you need to do is sign up on the new site, and we'll take care of the rest. Like I said, it may take a couple of days because there are thousands of members who are going to be making this, and just know that the refund side of this is manual. It is not automatic. Yeah. So this is the ladies in the office doing this manually. So please bear with them. They're going to get them out as fast as they can. We're all hands on deck at this point.
Yeah.
And we will get it taken care of. And if we don't, shoot us an email and we'll make it right. We promise.
That's what I was going to say. Give it a couple of days, and if things aren't right in a couple of days, we'll make it right.
Yeah. So
with haste.
But it's a great site.
Yeah, I can't wait.
As a mom, I want to make sure we choose a cereal that's not entirely derived from sugar. Their car seats have to be nationally CPS certified, and their first car has to have every possible safety feature known to man. I just want to do my best to make sure that they're safe. One thing I don't have to worry about is the content they hear on J Radio. Not only do they love the music, but I know it's only going to be a positive message that I would approve of. Now, if I could just figure out how to get my youngest from sticking everything up his nose.
Sign up at jradio.com and download the new J Radio app in your app store.
All right, we're back, and Thursday nights are so much fun. If you haven't tuned in on Thursday nights, you should. And you do have to be a member to tune in on Thursday nights, but now Thursday nights are on the new website as well.
You can see it on the app. You can see it on your computer. Yeah, that's another cool thing we didn't talk about is the app.
That's right.
So when you become a member, download the app, and you've got all the tools right there on your phone.
Yeah. So check out Thursday night. We go over lots of different stuff here. Recently, we talked about kids and running. You know, a lot of people have questions. They either have kids or grandkids, or some are young themselves, and they're wondering about what is okay for kids to do and not to do. Well, we talked about that. So we answer a lot of, and then some basic questions. We may talk about injuries. And then we may talk.
Did that come as a result of a question you had?
It didn't this time.
Okay.
It actually
have had those questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another thing is feel free to shoot us an email and say, hey, Dean, I was wondering about this. Would you talk about this on Thursday night? And you'll try your best to work it in.
Dean@runforgod.com.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, I was thinking about diet the other day, and I was thinking about how when somebody changes their diet, what do we do when we change our diet? What's our focus? Our focus is on don't eat that stuff that's bad for me.
When too many times it's all or nothing too.
That's true. That's true.
We go way one way. But yeah, we focus on, I'm giving this up.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I thought I was thinking about, because, I changed to this plant-based diet, and an example of something that I do is I eat tofu now. I never thought I would eat tofu in the past. Tofu doesn't have a lot of taste to it. And so a lot of people look at that and they go, ugh. But if you fix it right, so I take the tofu and I cut it up into much smaller blocks than they tell you to. I take the extra firm stuff, cut it up into much smaller blocks than what you typically see at a restaurant. And then I season it with garlic, some kind of garlic spread powder, and some pepper, and then a little bit of soy sauce, and it tastes pretty good. What we should be looking at is not what we gave up, but what kind of cool things can I eat now? What's something different that I can try that I've never had before? I think it's an opportunity. It's a lot like when you go on vacation and you get a chance to run in a new place. It's an opportunity to see and feel and experience something new. Well, it's the same thing with a diet. And if we looked at our diets that way, it'd make a diet a lot easier than just worrying about, oh gosh, I can't eat hamburgers anymore. Yeah. You know? Because that's what we tend to do. So look at the opportunities. Let me ask this. So I want you to think about this, okay? What's the largest animal in the jungle?
Is it the elephant?
Probably the elephant, right? What do you think is probably the strongest animal in the jungle?
Lion?
This one's a little debatable. Lion, or I thought gorilla. Right? Right. Pretty big and strong.
Who would win in a lion and a gorilla fight? That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. And then what's the oldest animal? It's the tortoise. It's the tortoise.
The tortoise.
The tortoise, right? You know what they all have in common?
You've got me.
They're all plant eaters. Every one of them.
Oh, here we go. I knew there was a catch to this. Now, no. I'm going to say the lion is the strongest in the jungle, and he is a carnivore.
He is definitely a meat eater. Yeah. Well, I remember this phrase when I was young. Quitters never win. But you know what? That phrase isn't nearly as popular as it once was, and maybe this story explains why that is. This comes from Heather Valdez out there in Wyoming, and it's called Calling It Quits. Every year, sometime in November or December, I begin to see social media posts by friends announcing their word for the upcoming year. Some popular words of the year are faith, trust, intentional, transform, commitment. While no one intends to apply pressure, I always feel pressured to come up with my own word of the year. One year when I was reading the post from all my dear friends about their chosen word of the year, what that word meant to them and why they had chosen it, I had a very frank conversation with myself. That conversation went something like this. Me. Well, Heather, I guess you need to pick a word for this coming year. Myself. I never have before. Why should I start now? Me. Well, maybe it will help if you actually accomplish something next year. Myself. Well, that's kind of harsh. Me. It's true, isn't it? Myself. Well, yeah, but it's still harsh. Me. You should pick the word peace or maybe grace or surrender. No, I know. You just started running, so your word of the year should be discipline. Myself. Yeah, I think I'll just keep looking.
The funny thing is, I can hear her doing that.
I can.
Just what little I've been able to talk to her, I see that.
So
I see that
true.
conversation.
So true. For days, I took online quizzes to see which word of the year fit me best, and scouring my friends' posts to see if any of them grabbed me and screamed, "I am Heather's word of the year." After about a week of this feverish quest to find my word of the year, I mentally threw up my hands and said, I quit. That's when it happened. That's when I had an epiphany. Quit would be my word for the coming year. At first, it was kind of a joke, a way of thumbing my nose at the idea that focusing on one idea, or in this case, one word, could change my life. I was thinking, yeah, I want to quit everything, quit trying, quit my jobs, quit life and become a bum. Not really, but you get the picture. But then the Lord got a hold of that word in my mind and started to work in a way only He can. He showed me that I do indeed need to quit a number of things in my life. I need to quit selling myself short in areas He has gifted me, such as leadership. I call it bossiness, writing, music, and more recently, running, just to name a few. I need to quit comparing myself and my life to that of those around me, and especially those on social media. I need to quit relying on anyone but God to meet my needs and desires. I need to quit allowing others' expectations for my life or behavior drive me, thus stealing my peace, purpose, and passion. I need to quit fretting about things I have little or no power to change by myself, such as choices others make, politics, wars, social injustices. That only causes me to feel powerless and helpless. I need to quit avoiding the hard things, such as hard conversations and saying, I'm sorry or I was wrong. I need to quit putting off until tomorrow things that I can do today, like a run. I need to quit. I need to quit waiting to pursue that dream or goal until the time is better. I need to quit trying to find my value in anything other than Jesus Christ. This list could go on, but these are just a few of the items God made it clear I needed to quit. He showed me how these things have been stealing the joy and peace He has for me. In John 10:10, Jesus says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came so that they would have life and have it abundantly." I had been living anything but what I would consider an abundant life. Stress, lack of fulfillment, bone-deep weariness, and even discouragement have been the hallmarks of my life. In looking at the past few years, I have allowed the thief to steal, kill, and destroy, and now God has called me to quit allowing the thief any hold on my life. Have you ever quit something that was harmful? Eating too much sugar? Eating junk food? Chewing your fingernails? If so, you probably know you have to replace that activity with something else, preferably something that helps you continue to quit that which you no longer want to do. God has been faithfully teaching me the things he wants me to do. Think about or focus on as I quit the things he told me to quit. As I was thinking these things, God reminded me of a parable Jesus teaches in Luke 11:24 through 26. When an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, I will return to the house I left. When it arrives, it finds the house swept clean and put in order. Then it goes and takes 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go and live there. And the final condition of that person is worse than the first. I've heard it taught that the unspoken principle here in Luke is this. You can get rid of the bad, but unless you fill it with that which the Spirit has for you, the bad will come back sevenfold, making your condition worse. I don't know anyone who wants that. More than anything, I want to live my life for Jesus. And Lord knows I am a hot mess work in progress when it comes to living like he has called me to. I'm working daily on quitting that which steals, kills, and destroys, and focusing on that which gives abundant life. And I must admit, my word of the year has indeed changed my life. Guess the joke's on me.
It's a great story, Heather.
Well done, right?
Yeah, very well done.
Yeah. I've never tried this word of the year thing. Have you?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a New Year's resolution or not, but, you know, for the past couple of years, we've talked about it on here, peace.
Yeah.
That's kind of my, I don't know. I'm like Heather. I don't want to put a word of the year or title on it, but, I mean, yeah, there's things we need. You excel at what you focus on.
Yeah.
And so I really focus on trying to do things that makes my life more peaceful.
Yeah.
And I maybe got to change that word at some point, but it's been peace for a while now, and
yeah,
I guess there's still work to do there. So yeah, I guess in a way I have.
Yeah. I occasionally have a New Year's resolution or something, and well, it's been 11 years ago since I decided that I would just run every day. So I missed that one day, but
that one day
I've run every. It didn't start at the beginning of the year. It just started when I decided to start. And
yeah, I don't know if I really do things starting at the beginning of the year. I mean, we obviously start the Couch to Marathon because studies are clear that if you have those milestone times to start, most people do better with that. But I don't know that I do. Usually when I'm kind of stubborn, so when I get something in my head, it don't really matter when it is. My wife reminds me often that I get something in my head, it's all in right then, no matter what we're doing.
Yeah, whatever it is.
And, that can be bad sometimes.
Yeah. I remember one year I gave up Diet Coke. I was drinking Diet Coke like mad, like crazy.
I remember that.
And I just decided, okay, January 1st, no Diet Coke for 1 year.
Was it January 1st?
It was January 1st. And I did that for 1 year. I didn't take a sip. I mean, I went from drinking like
a case or two.
Yeah, like several 12 packs a week to 0 just overnight. And, people talk about having withdrawals and stuff like that. It didn't bother me a bit. Not a bit. Now, I will say, I didn't notice any different. Now, when I say that, people
the haters now.
They get all up in arms and like, oh, it made a huge difference. I'm like, well, it didn't make me feel any different.
Mm-hmm.
And then today, I occasionally drink a Diet Coke. Like, the one time I have to drink a Diet Coke is when I get you go to a fast food restaurant and you get a number one or whatever. I feel obligated not to drink water. Because I feel like
you're paying for the Diet Coke.
I paid for it.
You got to drink it.
Yeah, right. So, but it's hard to quit things even when you know you need to. And it really shouldn't be that hard. It really should not be that. I mean, if we've got God on our side, we should be able to quit anything if we want to.
Well, and it's so true that you can. You know, Elizabeth Moray posted the other day that she was, I think, forgive me, Elizabeth, if I get the number wrong, but I think she said 7 years smoke-free.
Yeah.
She quit smoking 7 years ago. And I replied and I said, it's this coming December to be 13 for me. And I remember when I tried to quit smoking, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on here, but for 2 years, I, in air quotes, tried to quit smoking. And I did the patch, the peel, the gum, everything I tried. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed smoking. Mm-hmm. And it goes to the point of Heather's story here. I didn't have anything that I liked better to replace it. Mm-hmm. So I would quit smoking and, you know, I quit in air quotes, and either boredom or whatever, there was no reason for me not to go back to smoking.
Yeah.
Until, and people are surprised when I say this, but I quit smoking the month before I taught the first Run for God class. I was a runner and I smoked.
Yeah.
That's kind of a rare breed, but I was that guy. I would run a marathon and go smoke a cigarette. Yeah. And that's horrible. And so I'm not endorsing that at all.
Right.
But that's just where I was. And when I started planning the very first Run for God class, even though I thought it was only going to be one class, 12 weeks, and I was going to be done with that, God really convicted my heart that, Mitchell, you don't need to do this. You don't need to teach this class and setting this bad example. Because I knew it was bad for me. I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, I had this thing that was greater than my reason to smoke. And it was because now I'm kind of putting myself in a position as an example.
Yeah.
You know, even though I've always said I wasn't that great of a runner, I don't know why God has me here, but nevertheless, he had me here, and God was really impressing on my heart that you don't need to do this. This is a bad example. No matter how you cut it, you can justify it all you want. It's a bad example. So I laid the cigarettes down one night. I had, I think, a half a pack, and they stayed in my kitchen for months.
Yeah.
And it was just a testament to me that I didn't need the patch. I didn't need the peel. I didn't need the gum. I needed a reason bigger than me.
Yeah.
And that's what Heather's talking about here. And I laid them down, and I've never picked one up again. And it was the craziest thing. Now, people say, oh, the desire goes away. No, that's not true. For me, it's not.
Yeah.
If I walk outside of a restaurant and I smell somebody smoking, man, I can go stand next to them and just, whiff it in. So the desire is always, it's there even today.
Yeah.
But my reason for not doing it is greater than my reason for doing it. And so that just goes to Heather's point that, it's the parable of the spirits, you got to fill that void with something.
That's the bottom line is you got to find something that you got to have a reason, and it's got to be one that motivates you. And a lot of times, that reason can be just God. And in the case for me, and I know this probably sounds crazy because I still like that. If I'm going to drink something to drink, I like Diet Coke. I like it today, just like you like smoking. Now, Diet Coke isn't as bad for you, so that is something you can do once a month, and it's not a big deal. But I can pick that up and then put it right back down. And I don't even remember where I was going with that comment.
Well, and know the crazy thing about the mind, and I heard this exact example in that Atomic Habits book that I was telling you about. A few years ago, we built the cross-country trail.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this story or not. But I had been off the job site for several years.
I remember
when we were getting Run for God started. And so when I quit smoking, I was off the job site, the construction site, for years. And so in my brain, I subconsciously related smoking to a job site. And I'll prove that that's true. When we were building the cross-country trail that we built for our church, where a lot of the teams run on now, I showed up there one day, and I got out of my truck, and I stepped out of my pickup truck. My feet hit the ground. I smelt fresh turned dirt. I smelt diesel fuel. I heard heavy equipment running because we had heavy equipment down in there moving, clearing the trail. I heard everything that brought me back to a job site years ago. And I stepped out of the truck and I patted my pockets because, as a smoker, if you don't have a pack of cigarettes, you'll be a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
All those years later, all that stuff came back and I tapped my pockets to see where my cigarettes were. And I was blown away. I was like, you haven't smoked in years. But all of those things, that atmosphere brought me right back to looking for my cigarettes.
It shows you.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is really crazy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I don't know what point that makes, but...
Well, and the point that I was going to make about giving up the Diet Coke was my reason for giving up the Diet Coke. What I replaced that with was I just wanted to see how it was going to affect me. And it was important enough for me just to realize, just to make a point that it either is a big deal or it's not a big deal, was enough to drive me to not drink Diet Coke. That doesn't seem like a very big reason, does it? But
you were focused on what you could be gaining, and you weren't focused on what you were giving up.
That's true.
Just to your point of the diets.
That's exactly right.
Too many times we focus on, in your case, I would really like a T-bone steak. You were saying, no, I can make this tofu. As crazy as that to me sounds, I can make this tofu taste better. But it's all about your focus.
Yeah, it really is.
So, yeah.
Philippians 4:19 says, "And my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus." Of course, that verse is at the end of a paragraph where Paul is thanking the Philippians for supplying his needs. They had done several things to help him along the way and supply his needs. The context here is that God supplies the needs that we're focused on, or that we need when we're doing his will. So Paul is busy working hard for his ministry and sharing Christ with people, and he was being provided for, and God did that through the Philippians in this case. And it's crazy how the more we stay in God's will, the more lucky we become. I remember the story. Remember we went out to Missouri and we did this race out in Missouri, and the guy there owned called a halfway house, for lack of a better terms. It was for mostly young men who were just needed a place. They were, a lot of them were drug addicts, a lot of issues with these guys. And it was an old school building, and it wasn't the nicest place in the world, but it was a place for these people, for shelter, and he provided food and other things for them. And I remember him talking about they needed new ovens in order to prepare the food. He went down and he looked at these ovens, and these ovens were $5,000 a piece, and he needed 2 of them. And it was like he just didn't have the money. I mean, they didn't have air conditioning in their building. It was like he didn't have an extra $10,000 for ovens, and so but he knew he needed those, and he was convinced he needed those, and that God was going to provide them. And he was in his mind, God was going to provide those things. And it's like 2 months later, he gets a phone call from the guy that owned the place that had the ovens, and just out of the blue said, "Hey, I know you were looking at these ovens. I got 2 of them up here that I want to donate. Can I go ahead and donate those to you?" And it was like, but he prayed for that specifically.
Pray expectantly.
And that's the way he did everything. He told story after story. Yeah. You remember some of the stories he told, one after another, of where he just had this expectation that God was going to provide what they needed. They didn't have they didn't have anything extra there, nothing extra, but they had everything they needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's this scripture.
That mustard seed faith.
It is, yeah. John 10:10, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came so that they would have life and have it abundantly." Words from Jesus himself.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I have to think about this verse so many times when you come across people So many times we feel like we're being attacked by people. Somebody's after me. And that's just usually that's really never the case. There's always something behind it, and it's what this verse is talking about here. Our wars are not against people. It's against the enemy, the ultimate enemy, which is the devil, the thief, that only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That is what's working behind the people we often interact with. And it doesn't make the situation many times better. Mm-hmm. You know, when somebody's attacking you, but it gives you a different perspective. Yeah. And I don't know. I've used that verse before when it comes to forgiveness. Yeah. Because I realize it's not that person.
It's what's working
and
through
often
them.
When you shine Jesus, you know, light makes darkness scatter. Mm-hmm. And when you go to forgive somebody, you all of a sudden you see a different side of that person. And it's because you're shining Jesus, the darkness flees. Yeah. And the devil is not in that conversation. He can't be in that conversation because Jesus is in that conversation. Right. And so I don't know, that verse really hit me this morning, that, you know, we need to remember that when dealing with people. Yeah. Our nation needs to realize this when dealing with people, because we're such at war with each other, and it's not our war to fight. Yeah. It really is not our war to fight. There's nothing we can do to change what's going on. I don't want to get political here. What's going on in our country other than getting on our hands and knees and praying. That's right. There's nothing we can do. Yep. There's really not. Yep.
I thought about this running example. You know, I've heard a lot of people tell me, you need to quit running because you're going to destroy your knees. Mm. And that's the conventional wisdom of people in general, is that you're going to destroy your knees if you continue to run. And if I listened to those people and I quit running, how different would my life be today? Mm-hmm. Right? But instead, what I listened to was the truth. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that running is actually good for your knees. Mm-hmm. It does not destroy your knees. And that as long as I focus on the truth, good things can happen. It's the way it is in our faith, right? Mm-hmm. The truth is what's in that book, and the words of, and these words of Jesus and all the other words in there. And when we focus on the truth instead of what people tell us, or what the people around us think, or what the news says, or whatever it is. I don't know why we're so surprised. We're so surprised about the infighting and stuff in our country. The Bible says it was going to happen, right? So I don't know why we get so surprised about it. And the world is busy telling us that being apart from God is a good thing, that God is a crutch, that God is, you know, they call him Sky Daddy. You know, and they make fun of us. And that makes that sometimes, if we're not real secure in our faith, we think about that and it bothers us. And it should bother us that people are that callous. But on the other side of that, we should be, if we're secure in our faith, we realize the truth is that they just don't know any better. Well, just like you were saying.
But there again, it's nothing new. I mean, we just, as a family, we're in Proverbs, and go back and read Solomon's own words where he said, I tried everything. I had everything. I tried everything. The only thing that was satisfying was God.
That's right.
I mean, this is argumentatively, is that the right word? Arguably the richest man in history. Had every resource you could have. And he came to the realization, it's God.
It's God.
It's God.
That's what matters.
Nothing else can satisfy our soul. Nothing can give us that true peace that's been my word other than God. It's not money. It's not fame. It's not politics. It's not what you have, what you own, what you can buy. It's God.
Yep. And when you feel that and you know that, man, we have to understand that people who don't know that, they don't know. They don't know. There's a reason why they don't know. It's back to your point before. It's not them.
It's not them lashing out at us.
Right. Yeah. It's important. I was reading a book recently called Amazing Truths. And it's all about the scientific evidence for God. And, the more we learn about science, the more true the Bible is every day. I think that's just fascinating. There's nothing in the Bible that you can look at in the Bible and then go to science and say, well, that's not true. Right. And I don't know. And then we have these discoveries. And I think about when they wrote the Bible and how they didn't know any of this scientific stuff. But there's a lot of science in there that they didn't know they were writing at the time, right? It's very interesting. Luke 11:24-26. When an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, I will return to the house I left. When it arrives, it finds the house swept clean and put in order. Then it goes and takes 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and live there. And the final condition of that person is worse than the first. It's a scary thought.
I guess when I read that, because we're talking about diet in cases, but you see this all the time in diets. You see people who they do the cleanse.
Yeah.
And they just start eliminating things completely. They clean out the refrigerators. I have the picture of this house that is swept clean and perfect. And then the hunger comes. And they haven't planned for what's going to replace all that bad food that they're getting rid of, and they have no plan in place, and they try to do these absolute none of this, none of that. And I think that's why you see people who they'll lose 100 pounds and they'll gain 100 pounds right back, because it's just not sustainable. We don't like the terms diet anyway, but you got to have a sustainable plan.
That's right. And
absolutely getting rid of things and not replacing it with healthy things is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And there's a sermon in there.
There is, for sure. Yeah. Well, I think about this from the mental side of running, because our human nature is to think negative thoughts. I mean, whether we like it or not, it just is. And we're inundated so much with negative messages that our brain is inclined in that direction. And so the only way, we had a workout this morning with our college girls, and there's one overall really good workout, but there was one girl who's clearly struggling mentally right now. I mean, it's what we talk about. It's the 6 inches between her ears that's the problem right now. The only way to get rid of all those bad thoughts that are causing performance issues and causing us not to be able to reach those goals is to crowd them out with positive thoughts. You can't just not think of negative thoughts. You have to replace them with positive thoughts. So when you're out there and it hurts and it's hard and you still got 2 miles left to go and you're not sure you can make it, don't think negative thoughts. Think positive thoughts. Instead of thinking, I don't know if I can make it, think, I know I can make it. And it's just the rearranging of those letters and words can make all the difference in getting there. Mentally, you got to fill your mind with good things. And of course, our bodies are the same way too. And you just mentioned it. You can't not fill up, right? You can't, it's not okay to go, okay, what I'm going to do is I've been filling my body with bad stuff. Now I'm just not going to fill it with anything.
Right.
It doesn't work. No. You have to have fuel. So
it may work for a period of time.
Right.
But eventually you're going to succumb to, I'm hungry.
That's right. Yeah.
And we revert back to what we've already known.
Yeah. And eventually you can't be mentally strong enough to always overcome that.
No.
And eventually your body will adapt to it, and then it's going to make the problem worse. Question. Have you ever quit something unproductive and not replaced it with something productive? And what was the result?
I go back to the smoking. I mean, that's probably the best illustration in my life. Is so many times for 2 years I tried just to quit and not replace or not have that reason that was bigger than the reason to smoke. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I enjoyed smoking.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I found a reason that was bigger than that that I actually quit. And at that point, you don't need the thing. You don't need the pill or the patch or the gum or all the different things you hear about nowadays, because you can do all that stuff. And if the desire to smoke is stronger than any other desire, you'll go right back to it. Mm-hmm. Same way with drugs, alcohol, all those things. It's not until you come to the end of your desire that you can truly make a change. Because I had to get honest with myself and say, my problem is I like to smoke. Mm-hmm. It's not the addiction. It's not the nicotine. It's I like to smoke. It's the habit of doing it. I'm a habitual person. It never works out good.
Yeah.
When you don't replace it.
Well, you go back to diets, and she mentions this specifically in the story about cutting out sugar. It's a really good example. When you cut out sugar has a very specific interaction in your body, right? And so when you cut that out, your body is going to crave sugar. So what can you do? What can you replace that with? Well, how about a banana? A banana has sugar in it, but it's way better for you than a piece of chocolate.
Right.
So there are things that you can replace. Like you just said, what you replaced it with, but bananas instead of candy is a good thing. There's always something that's better, and like old Spider, I like the way he puts things. It's whatever you can do that's a little bit better, then do that thing.
Right.
And even if it's just incremental, and you get a little bit better today, then maybe next week you do something different that's even better. But yeah, you gotta make those changes. Because the truth is, if you don't, whatever your change is, if you don't like it, and if you can't learn to like it, then it's not going to matter. You're going back. So you got to figure that out. Another question: do you have something in your life that you have allowed to? Excuse me. Let me start over. Do you have something in your life that you have allowed the thief to steal, kill, or destroy? These questions are getting personal, aren't they?
Yeah. Heather's meddling here.
I don't know if this applies to this question, but prayer, when you don't have a good prayer life, you miss out on so much. You miss out on blessings. I've shared on here, I've been really convicted over the past month, and I'm still working at getting better at that. But I think when we have this focused, constant conversation with God, that it's like having a security camera, for lack of a better way of looking at it, right? That if God is constantly in my mind and I'm constantly in conversation with God, well, the thief has no place to come in. The thief can't get involved in my head and what I'm thinking, because I'm too busy staying focused on God. And I think that's. And then there's other things that you can do to protect yourself physically too, like you lock doors. Maybe you have a weapon beside your bed, or whatever the thing is that keeps you and protects you. Well, that's the Bible. Locking my doors keeps me safe. The Bible is what I use as my weapon, but the Bible calls it a sword, right? And so that's an interesting thought, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think other times it's complacency.
Yeah.
The evil one can come in the form of complacency. I love our Run Club members, and this is just another reason. A few weeks ago I talked about the Bible study that I just ran up on out at the church property, and I sat in, and one of the gentlemen was talking about a guy he knew that has a couple months to live. He's not a believer. And he made the comment, well, if you ever want to talk about Jesus, reach out to me. And I was really convicted that we need to do more. That guy needs to do more. He don't worry about hurting his feelings. Go. Well, yeah. I got an email from Katie Reed, and she said, hey, just a suggestion. What about you go to the guy and say, hey, would you like for me to go with you to talk to this guy? And I mean, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And honestly, I didn't think about it till right now. Yeah. And I pulled Katie's email back up and I looked at it, and I'm going to text the guy today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, hey, do you care if I go with you to talk to this guy? Because I understand. I mean, I get it. It's probably an uncomfortable situation. They're friends.
Sure.
But complacency. I was complacent in that. I was trying to say what this guy should do, and the Lord's convicted me of what this guy should do. No, maybe it's the Lord convicted me of what I need to do.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that's pretty
I'll let
good.
you know, but I will, as soon as we get off this podcast, I'm going to send that guy a text, because who knows? Maybe that was God's plan all along.
Maybe. That's interesting. Last question. What do you need to quit in order to have the abundant life promised by Jesus?
A lot of things.
I need to quit whining.
Yeah, that's up there.
That's just the thing. I got to quit whining about all the bad things going on. I spend way too much time wondering why people think the terrible things that they think, and they're headed in the terrible direction that they're headed. Again, the Bible warns us that that's going to happen, and so I shouldn't be surprised. And whining doesn't do anything, right? It's a lot like what you're just talking about. It's just like that story. It's like, yeah, you can talk about what that guy should do, but is there something I can do different?
Sure.
Instead of complaining about something that's going, let me give you a good example. And I'm not using this for myself, but for somebody else out there. Maybe there's something going on in your church you don't like. Mm-hmm. Maybe you should pray about that.
Yeah.
Maybe God needs to convict you in one way or the other, or maybe you need to pray that whatever that thing is, maybe that thing isn't good. It's very possible, right? There's some things going on in our churches that shouldn't go on. Well, maybe praying about that may change that too.
Because it may be your preferences are the problem.
That could be. It could be a lot of things.
It's been that way for me in my church.
Yep.
I say, well, that's just not right, and come to find out, that's just not what I like.
Yep.
But it's not about what I like.
Yep.
So many times.
But I would say that you got that message from Katie that kind of focused you in a different direction. But if you had stopped and took a step back and thought, what's a different way to approach this? That may have come up. That probably would have entered your mind that, well, maybe this is another way. But we get focused on what we think and the direction we think people should go, or that we should go, that we never take time. And that's what prayer does. Prayer makes us take a step back and think, well, how can I do this differently? What can God use me? And can he use me in a different way? Right. And so, yeah, good stuff.
Do you struggle with motivation to exercise? Are you looking for something that will challenge you and inspire and motivate you? The Run for God Run Club is just what you need to get off the couch and on your way to a fitter, healthier you. Stop trying to get into better shape and do it with the help and inspiration of thousands of others who are going through the same challenges you face. Whether you are participating in the Couch to Marathon Challenge or any of our other challenges, or you're just looking for a daily pick-me-up to get active, join the Run for God Run Club today. You can join for as little as 27 cents a day. So what are you waiting for? Get started today at runforgod.com.
All right, we're back. Do you like running with other people? Do you prefer running with others?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I ran with you yesterday.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
yeah,
that. Of course,
yeah.
I slowed you way down. But yeah, I do. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do. Yeah.
Well, I got a chance. I ran with you, and then I got a chance to run with Landon right after that. So that worked out pretty good. Yeah, but I really don't mind running by myself. I do most of the mileage that I do by myself, and I kind of like the solitude. Yeah. People think I'm crazy when I say this, but it is 100% true. I am an introvert. I am not an extrovert. As much as sometimes I may sound like it, I am an introvert, and I have to force myself to do things that are extroverted kind of things. I'm not a good small talk guy. You know me. I'm not good at small talk.
Yeah.
If it's small talk time, then the only thing that's on my mind is probably politics or running. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
And most people don't want to talk about either of those things.
Yeah.
So I'm not real good at that. So I think that's probably why I enjoy the time of running by myself. So I know there's a lot of people who won't run on their own. They'll never run on their own. They're like, I don't run by myself.
Right.
And that's got to be hard, because it's got to be hard to always find somebody to run with.
You need to learn to run on your own, because if you rely on somebody running with you to get you out the door, then when somebody can't run with you, you're not going to get out the door. So you got to,
definitely got to do that. All right, it's a time for Dean's Thoughts. That's a time when I share something that I've written about the intersection between running and faith. You have to be somewhere to get the full experience of it. And I'm going to share just a few examples, though there are millions of them. This one's called You Had to Be There. We have a spectacular fireworks display every 4th of July in downtown Cohutta, population 784. The show will bring 5 times that number for the celebration. Just about everyone who has ever seen it cannot believe that our little town pulls off something so grand in scope. Watching the black sky explode with bright colors in our tiny town creates pure exhilaration. I shot a video of a few minutes of the show and was recently re-watching it. And as you can imagine, it just wasn't anywhere near as great as being there. That explains why watching fireworks on television is not a thing. Most people love going to the beach, even if just for a few hours. But what would happen if you put on your best Hawaiian shirt, played a video on your large screen television of crashing waves, and sat next to a heat lamp? Do you think you could approximate the feeling of being at the beach? Absolutely not. There is a reason why people drive for hours to the beach when they could simulate the environment at home. Or how about this? Which is better, looking at a photo of your kids or having them live in front of you? Again, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? There's a reason why we have the phrase, I guess you just had to be there. Why do most of us love to run races? It's the experience of being there and sharing that experience with others, right? And being there typically makes running hard much easier than doing it on our own. Having others around who are in pursuit of similar goals to yours adds immeasurably to the event. When we're training, most of us love to run with others. It makes the runs a little easier, makes the time pass faster, and gives us an opportunity to share something we love to do with our friends. Being able to share our experience with others, whether it is running, staying at the beach, or watching a fireworks display, is not only satisfying, it is essential to our well-being. God made us social beings at the point He said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him," in Genesis 2:8. We are intended to experience life with others. Church is the same way. I believe the worst thing to come from the pandemic of 2020 was the fact that churches shut down. I heard about a church recently that routinely had 300 to 400 people at Sunday morning services in 2019. Today, they have 60 to 80. You see, the pastor told everyone that watching church services online was as good as being there when the church was going through the pandemic. He meant well. He was just trying to make a point that they were fortunate to be able to experience the church service even though they could not meet. But the church is now struggling, even while the pastor is trying to get the congregation back in the seats. Watching online is just not the same thing. It is difficult to feel the Holy Spirit move in a building that is miles away from you. The Bible describes Christians as sheep. God is our shepherd, as it is eloquently explained in the 23rd Psalm. There's a reason why sheep are kept in large flocks. There is safety in those flocks. Where is the food? It's where the large group is found. The water, near the flock. If there is a predator in the neighborhood, which sheep will he focus on? The one that is off on its own, or the herd of dozens or even hundreds? We are much more exposed to the wiles of the devil when we are alone. David, the man after God's own heart, rejoiced in Psalm 122 when someone suggested that they go to the house of the Lord. David could have prayed for Jerusalem at home, but he felt it would be better to do it with others in the church. We can have great moments of worship when we're by ourselves, but we simply cannot have the full experience of God if we never experience it in the church with other believers. Running with others often makes for a more rewarding experience. Being at the beach is much more fun than a simulation of the beach, and being in the church with other believers provides us with an experience we cannot find on our own. Our running partners make us better runners, and our fellow Christians help bring us closer to God. And if you need one more reason to get off the couch and go to church, never forget that the Bible says in Hebrews 10:24 and 25, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. The Bible should always be the final word.
Man, you hit that dead on the head, Dean.
We talked about it last week, right? A little bit.
I was talking about it last night.
Yeah.
There's so many truths in here, and so many things that you didn't even cover.
Yeah.
The fact that when we go to church, it's not always to help us, but it's to help others.
Yeah.
There's so many people in the church who are struggling that we don't even know. We don't know they're struggling, and they're there to find help, and we may be the help that they're looking for. You don't get that when we're not there. And I know there's people that say, I can commune with God in a deer stand. I can commune with God on the golf course. I don't know how to say it nicely, but you can, but it's not the same. It's just not the same.
That's kind of my point.
We need to be in the church, and I watched church online during the pandemic because I had to. And there are people, the technology is great for the homebound.
Shut-ins.
And for the nursing homes and all that. Yes, that is great because they have to. But the vast majority of the people who are watching online now don't have to.
Yeah.
And it's hurting our churches. It's taking the synergy away. It's taking away the importance of what the church is there for. We were in the youth last night. I've talked many times that I help on the youth on Wednesday nights. And, our youth, we would have 80, 90 strong before the pandemic. And now we're at 30. And people just, the building is not a priority. And the building is not the church.
Right.
Correct. I hear people say all that all the time. We are the church. The building is not the church. But the building is where we meet. It's where we gain that synergy. It's where that flock gets safety that you talk about. And I love how you illustrated the fact that who's the wolf going after?
Yeah.
Is he going after the flock, or is he going after that one that's off by himself and saying, well, I'm close enough?
Yeah.
Close enough to get you killed sometimes.
That's right.
This has really been on my heart lately, and I'm glad God put it on your heart as well, obviously.
Yeah, it really hit me hard when I heard about this church.
Yeah.
When I just heard those numbers, it really, really hit me hard. And I thought, and just like you said, it's just people who are like, well, I'm getting the same thing when I'm at home. And let me say this, and this is going to sound harsh too. If you're getting the same thing at home that you got when you were in the building, then you weren't doing it right when you were in the building.
Right.
That's just the bottom line is if you, there's just no way to feel the power of that Holy Spirit the same way online as you can feel in that building around other people who feel that same Holy Spirit. It's just no way.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't say there's no way. God can do whatever he wants. But God puts a special emphasis
You're right.
on a body of believers who are gathered together.
Yeah.
Whether two or more are gathered, he's there.
Yeah.
It's a promise. It's stated in Scripture. Why would we not want to be there? Why would we not want to take part of that? And I get it. I understand why. It's convenience. It's just more convenient to sit at home and watch it. But what happens is the convenience of being home leads to, well, I've got laundry to do. Well, I'll start doing laundry while I watch church. Well, before you know it, the church is out of the picture.
Right.
And it's laundry, and it's going to the lake, it's on the golf course, it's in the deer stand, it's all the things that take. Just last night, I had a conversation with my oldest son, Lane. And he just wasn't thinking. Our Wednesday night youth group started back, and he had a swim scheduled for last night. So he was at swim instead of at church. And I told him when he got home, I said, Lane, let's not do that. And he said, Dad, I know. He said, I just wouldn't even think. He even gets it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need to let things crowd out gathering together in the building. Is the building the church? No, it's not. I'm not trying to say that. And don't twist my words. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But that is where that is where the Holy Spirit a lot of times works the most powerfully, because the whole flock is together, and there's power in those numbers. And yeah.
Well, one of the things that I worry about a little bit is we've talked about before about bike shops. You know, bike shops are struggling these days because people are not buying bikes at the store anymore. They're buying them online.
Right.
And so the only thing bike shops have become is if I need something in an emergency or if I need my bike repaired.
And they're closing right and left.
And they're closing all over the country. Running stores, same thing, because we can buy stuff online so easily. And I get it. I get the convenience, and the convenience is great and it's fantastic and all that. But what's going to happen when our churches don't have enough people in them to support them anymore? And so everybody's watching online, and how much weaker are churches going to become when that becomes the norm, right?
Well, go back to the bike shop. I mean, what's happening now? Yeah, I can go buy a bike online. I don't. I support my local bike shop, but I could go buy a bike online. I mean, the one bike shop that we had in our hometown closed down for this very reason. Well, there's going to be time where I need to work on my bike and I don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. There's going to be things that are above me.
Yep.
We have those instances all the time in our spiritual lives.
Yeah, we do.
But if we shut the churches out, there's so many things that I learn by going to church. And it's not always the sermon I hear. It's the guy that I look up to, that I go sit down with and say, hey, think about if there was no churches, there would be no Run for God.
Yeah.
The interaction between H.R. Poe and I would have never happened.
Yeah.
There's so many things that come out of church that are so far outside the building. And it's just we need to keep thumping this drum because it's bad right now. Yeah. Churches are struggling around the world, and a lot of it was an unintended consequence, or to us, unintended consequence of COVID, but
I think Satan's in it to some degree. And you know what's really, really scary is that virtual reality is becoming better and better. And when you get virtual reality and AI, and both of them get much, much better, people are basically going to be able to sit on their couch and live their life on their couch by themselves. But they're thinking they're around people in this virtual reality, and they can be whatever they want to be. They can look however they want to look. They can have the life that they always dreamed of online, but it's not the same thing.
I was watching, I think it was Fox Business yesterday, and they were talking about something that's becoming more and more popular is people buying real estate on the metaverse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start to sound like an old man here, but I have never put on a pair of those virtual reality goggles. I won't. Our kids' swim teams, they used to have, several years ago, they had where they would put on these virtual reality goggles and analyze swim strokes. That's when Lane and Landon were younger. I wouldn't let them do it. I just feel like that is a gateway to somewhere that we don't need to go.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm old fashioned. I don't know, but I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of those things.
I'm hearing my dad come out in me now. My grandpa come out in me, but there's wisdom there.
Well, and I can't help but think about it's fine for, honestly, I haven't tried the VR stuff either, but I wouldn't mind trying it. But I understand where that line is, right? And sure. It's not gonna become who I am. But think about the high school student who's ostracized a little bit at school. Maybe he's a gamer. I don't know. But he's immersed himself in something else, and he has this opportunity to live online. What's he going to do? Well, there's no question which one's going to be more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And we're not called to a life of comfort.
No,
we're called to do hard things, and sometimes hard things is getting up and going to church.
Yeah.
At Run for God, we care about more than just your exercise. We care about your relationship with God, and we believe that the music you listen to while you run can help you build your relationship with God. That's why we partner with J Radio. J Radio offers a variety of positive and Christian playlists to listen to while you run. You can find a playlist that I put together on the Run for God station on J Radio. All right, we're back, and every week I share a reason why running is so awesome, and this is the reason for this week. Your 5-year-old and your grandmother can both do it. You can run at any age, and of course at Run for God, we've seen that over and over and over again. We all may have different abilities as far as how fast we run, but almost everybody can run or walk.
Yeah.
And it means we can share it across generations. How many activities are there out there? I mean, there are a lot of activities, but not a ton of things that are really good for you that you can share across generations.
Well, I've said it several times. I've said it many times that the cool thing about Run for God is, our churches are so segregated nowadays, and for good reason. I mean, we have the senior adults, we have the married couples, we have the young married couples, we have the high schooler, middle schooler, elementary. We have all these different. And even the services nowadays, many churches, you got a contemporary service and a traditional service, but you go in a Run for God class, you don't see any of that. You'll see a 5-year-old and an 85-year-old in the same class, and like you said, different abilities, different goals, but all there doing with one goal, and that is Run for God. And that's why these classes are that's why Run Club is so cool, because it's just a melting pot of everybody.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And you know what else that means? That means nobody has any excuse not to get out there and get it done.
Exactly.
That's right. So I saw this interesting conversation online about tracks, and there was a question on there about asphalt tracks, and it made me think back when I was coming up. I remember the first time I ever ran on a track. It was on a grass field. There was a line drawn, and we ran around that line. It was in the back of my junior high school, and I ran a 5:33 mile that day for my first mile I'd ever run in my life. And that was the surface we had in junior high. I went up to high school the next year, and we had an asphalt track. We don't see asphalt tracks anymore at all.
Some of the older schools you still see.
Do you still see some of them?
Yeah.
Not many.
Yeah, when we travel to Lanes Races, we always find a high school.
Yeah.
And a lot of the upper Midwest and northern areas, you still see it. New schools, obviously, it's the high-tech tracks, but a lot of the older schools is still asphalt tracks. And they're crumbling and coming apart. And,
Yeah. But I remember those tracks, and I remember when I was in high school, there were 5 high schools in our county, and all 5 of them used a place called Terra Stadium. Terra Stadium was you remember the old Northwest track down here? That was that, I'm not even sure what it's called, but that soft material that kind of comes apart after a while. That's what that Terra Stadium was made out of. But it allowed you to wear spikes when you ran. I remember people wearing spikes on the asphalt tracks. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
but people would. But now these synthetic surfaces are so much better. I remember in high school going to Griffin High School, and at Griffin High School, when I was in high school, they still had a cinder track. And I remember running on that track.
Which is basically ground up concrete, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's basically like running on real small gravel.
Yeah.
And that's what, back in the early 60s, that's what they ran on.
Yeah.
I mean, the professionals ran on those tracks. That's why spikes came into being, was because
you still see those tracks too. We've been to some places, a lot of them are overgrown with grass now.
Yeah.
But you can see, I mean, it was a cinder track at one time.
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting surface.
Yeah, it is. It is. And they ran some fast times on those, although that had to be slower than what we have today. So when you look back at somebody like a Jim Ryan, you realize, man, oh man, I wonder how fast he would have been with today's technology, the shoes and the tracks. But the first synthetic track, well, the time that synthetic tracks really became popular was when the first time they used it in the Olympics was in the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City. So that doesn't seem like that long ago when the first synthetic track was used. I say the first synthetic. There were some others. That was the first time it was used popularly. And that's where things started to change and other people started to think we need one of those. Colleges started to put them in, and then high schools. And I remember they had this material. The material back then, it was called Chevron 440. That was the name of the surface, Chevron 440. Now
I've heard of that.
Now it's Mondo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And synthetic tracks have many advantages. They last longer. They require less maintenance. A lot of them are made from recycled materials too. I didn't realize that, but a lot of what's in them is
tires, things like that.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. And they say they decrease injury because they're softer.
Yeah. Have you ever watched them put one down? I watched them at Cahulla Creek.
Yeah,
they trowel it on just like it's like a thick paint almost.
So does the texture just sit on the top? It just automatically
it's in the mix.
It's in the mix.
They have they trowel it on with like a quarter inch or a half inch. It may have been a half inch trowel.
Yeah.
Where you got the grooves that are a half inch tall, so when you rake it, it settles down and it's all even then. But yeah, what's underneath it is concrete.
Yeah.
It's a concrete track.
Yeah.
That has this surface on it, and I mean it's good stuff.
So let me ask this. Okay, because tracks, I've got a new theory here. This is a Dean theory. These tracks supposedly reduce injuries because they're softer. Okay? Well, the softness of that track is quarter inch thick.
Quarter or half, yeah.
Maybe a half inch.
Yeah.
Maybe a half inch thick. It's not that much.
Right.
It certainly doesn't do anywhere near as much as your shoes do, right? As far as making your run softer.
Right.
So is the softness of the surface really making a difference? Because it's concrete right underneath there. It's just like having a little bit extra midsole in your shoe.
I would say, if it's a half inch, which I think it was a half inch, because I sat there and watched them do it.
Yeah.
I mean, a half inch that's basically double the sole of your shoe. I mean, the sole of your shoe's not a half inch. I wouldn't think.
It's way more than a half inch.
No, not right under your midfoot. I would think it's about a half inch between your skin and the ground.
Yeah.
At compression.
Yeah.
Is probably about a half inch. So it's basically doubling your sole. So if you take that away, then it's half as much material. So that's a lot if you really look at it.
I think about the arguments of, I hear people say it all the time. I'd rather run on asphalt than concrete because it's softer. And there is no difference. The studies show there's no difference, but people in their mind, they've got this difference. And it is because concrete is like 20 times harder.
I was going to say, it is different.
It is.
The material's different. It's definitely softer.
But if it doesn't give when you step on it, then it's not making a difference when you run on it.
Right.
And asphalt is
the
not.
Body weight, the weight of your body's not going to make it give.
Right.
If you drive a 40,000-pound truck across it,
then
it gives.
Then it gives.
Yeah, for sure. You can see it.
Yeah, but if you're 150 pounds, you're not going to feel it. So there is no difference between the two. And again, the studies show that. My theory is this: that the reason why tracks produce less injuries is because tracks are flat.
I agree with that.
I think the fact that a track is flat and your footing is perfect every time you land is what makes a track safer.
Think about your last injury. It's you stepped wrong or I agree with that.
Yeah. 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 I've had
So did we just confirm it?
if we both agree, yeah.
Because we don't
Obviously.
agree on too much,
That's
in
true.
here a
Yeah.
lot of times. So,
Yeah.
then it must be confirmed.
All right, we have a trivia question for next week, and it's this. Most people have heard the term pronate or pronation. It is what our foot does as we run. The arch collapses to a different degree in everyone. Here's the question. Is pronation a good thing or a bad thing? Should we be trying to eliminate it?
I think I know the answer to this
It's a good question,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And if you know the answer, you can send it to dean@runforgod.com. Or even if you don't know the answer and you just want to speculate, I would enjoy
It's a
reading those
50-50
too.
shot.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's yes or no. Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, send that to Dean. We'd love to hear an explanation of
Maybe
why
we'll
you
give
think
extra
it
credit
does or
if they
doesn't.
not only give the answer, but they tell us why
Yeah, absolutely.
their answer is the best answer.
That's right.
Okay. Well, yeah, make sure Gabe puts in something a little extra if they do the
We'll have
second part of that.
We'll have to do that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yep. All right. We have a motivational thought of the week, and it's this. A good laugh and a long run are the two best cures for anything. I couldn't find anybody to attribute
Although
that
they
quote to,
don't
but I do
often
like
go
it.
together.
They do. They do.
Don't often go together.
Yeah.
A good laugh and a long run, sometimes you're a good cry in a long run.
Well, I modified this to my own quote, and it's this. Laughter is the best medicine, but a long run is a close
I
second.
like that.
Yeah.
Good word, Dean.
All right. Well, until next week, may God bless every step of every run. Go out there and shine your light.
Go check out runforgod.com. Good job, Dean.
For more information about the Run for God ministry, go to runforgod.com. If you have questions about your salvation, click on the Peace with God tab. There's nothing more important. Thanks for joining us today.